Greetings to you, my dear friend. I sincerely hope all is well with you and with your children by the grace of God. In the book of Galatians, chapter 6, reading verse 1, the Bible tells us this: Brethren, if any man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. There is a companion passage to this in James 5:19 and 20. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins. Those two verses tell us that there should exist in the church of God a social responsibility for the spiritual behavior of individual members. It does not mean that the church congregationally functions as a policeman, but it certainly means that in the eyes of God, we have limited responsibility for how others behave. When God spoke to Cain, who had murdered his brother Abel, God said, "Where is Abel thy brother?" Clearly, God was implying that Cain had some responsibility for the welfare, the condition of his brother. And this extends from then until now. If someone in your family is willfully sinning against God, and you're supposed to be part of a Christian family, something needs to be said, whether in the family or in the church. This concept is embedded in the Sabbath commandment. Listen carefully to the text. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, so we have thou, that's the individual, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, that is having responsibility for others, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. Clearly, the homeowner has some responsibility for the conduct of those under his or her roof. The same extends to the church. God expects of us to have some concern, some care, some responsibility for how other members of the church, our brothers and sisters, conduct themselves, because that individual behavior may reflect negatively upon the church and bring the judgment of God. My listening friend, as you keep the Sabbath holy, remember, Sabbath keeping is not a closeted behavior in which we shield ourselves from others with no interest at all in the spiritual behavior of our fellow brothers and sisters. There is an element of concern for others that God requires of us. As you keep the Sabbath holy, permit me to suggest two things. One, make sure your Sabbath keeping example is wholesome in the eyes of God. And ask God for the courage, if necessary, to approach someone who is willfully violating the fourth commandment. If you cannot do it, surely you can approach the leadership of the church and let them handle this matter. Again, I say, it does not make us spiritual policemen, but the family of the church or of the home must have a responsibility to some degree for how individual church and family members conduct themselves. May the Lord superabundantly bless you, my listening friend, and sweetly bless your children as you keep the Sabbath holy, or as you decide even now to become, in the eyes of God and to the delight of God, a Sabbath keeper. God bless you.